I summon you to fulfill your oath.
Hey, what's going on, YouTube? So the Greatest Heights event is nearly upon us. The date I keep hearing is 28 September. Now, I can't independently verify that date, but I've heard it from enough independent sources that I trust. They're all saying the same day, and so I'm using 28 September as my planning day. I expect that'll be the first day of the Greatest Heights event. Right, of course, the Greatest Heights event, that's the event that gives us the legendary city skins. This one will be a Magic City skin with a 10% HP bypass. It's a bit surprising that we were due for just a flat HP boost to mages. Hey, that would have been great too. But HP bypass sounds really interesting. Customer support has confirmed that HP bypass is what's coming. So in today's video, we're going to talk through the Greatest Heights event. What is it? How you do well in it, how you can score, what the rewards are, and give you some tips and strategies to maximize your outcome for the upcoming Greatest Heights event. Okay, for starters, the first thing I should get out of the way is that this event isn't even called Greatest Heights anymore. It used to be called that in Call of Dragons, but I don't know, 2 or 3 iterations ago, they changed it to Heights of Power. For the most part, players I talk to, Discord forums, etc., we still refer to it as Greatest Heights. It's the same thing. If you see Greatest Heights or Heights of Power, no difference there. Okay, this comes out every 90 days, and there's a regular rotation for it, and it's a legendary city skin. The upcoming one is Mages. Obviously, I expect this to be very popular. I honestly expect this to be the most popular Greatest Heights they've had an event today. Basically because Mages are the most played class, and now that we have a lot of people with tier 5 with a lot of specialization in Mages, they'll be looking to upgrade their city skin and get the legendary city skin. Now, Greatest Heights, it's just a straight power event. However you want to gain power, it's fine. But of course, for most of us, that means training troops. And really the big prize here at the end of the day is these legendary city skins. Okay, when it comes to Greatest Heights, there are some key thresholds you got to know about. The first threshold is 1 million power. There'll be a bunch of quests that come out during the event. And if you gain 1 million or more power during those 3 days, you get a bunch of quest rewards, and honestly, the quest rewards are pretty good. Like there's some gold heads, etc. It is usually worth doing 1 million power just to complete the quests. Okay, the second big threshold you need to know about is 5 million. For every 5 million power you increase, you get 1 token. We'll talk about the tokens later on. There is no upper limit to the number of tokens you can get per event, and one of the good things about the tokens is they hold over from event to event. So if you just want to push like 5 million, there is a point to that. You can get a token and hold on to it in the future. And the third threshold you need to know about is the top 10. Because if you finish in the top 10, you get the legendary city skin, for finishing the top 10. You don't have to do anything else. And that really is the goal for most of the people competing in this event. Now, when you're competing in this event, you're not competing just against your server, and you're not competing against your KVK group. You're basically competing against the cluster of servers basically around you, right? Usually it's about 6 servers, and in sequential order, they're all competing against each other. The numbers might vary slightly, but that's typically what I see. The other thing I'll say, and maybe I should have said this at the top, this is based on the latest Greatest Heights events, the last several that have happened, and there's no indication that it'll change anything. But of course, when the event comes out, always read the details. Things might have changed. I don't expect them to, but you never know. Okay, so you're competing against these other 5 or 6 servers near you. You want to get top 10 in terms of the total power you've gained over 3 days, because then you get the free city skin. But I also mentioned some tokens you get for every 5 million power. What are those for? The tokens can be exchanged really for 2 things. The first thing is you can spend 6 tokens to get the city skin. Now, what does that mean? It basically means 2 things. If you push 30 million power, you're usually hoping to be in the top 10. But even if you're not in the top 10, you can then go ahead and take those tokens and use it to buy a city skin, right? So if you push 30 million power, you are guaranteed the legendary city skin, period. The other thing you can buy with tokens are little like adornments, and these things basically give you an additional 3% to whatever stat you have with your legendary city skin. So for example, I have the adornment for the infantry defense city skin, and so when I use my city skin, I get 13% infantry defense thanks to this adornment here. Now, a couple things. The adornments only work with the legendary city skin they're associated with. So the ideal scenario for most players pushing this is they push 30 million, they end up in the top 10, they get the city skin, I'll say for free or essentially no additional cost, and then they use those 6 tokens to buy the adornment, and so they get the 13% bonus. To guarantee them both, you would need to push 60 million power. I would like to think on most servers, 60 million power would get you in the top 10 anyway, though. So, okay. Now, there are a couple other things you can buy with these tokens. You can buy like some pet fruits and stuff like that. It's all not worth it if you're not buying the city skin. Let's say you push 10 million power, you get these 2 tokens, save them, because you can save them up between events until you get 6 tokens, and then you can just buy a city skin you want. For the big players pushing this event, 30 million is kind of the key mark most of us are aiming to hit. Obviously, some players are aiming higher, but I go into these aiming for 30 million because I know in worst case scenario, I will guarantee myself the legendary skin. And hopefully if it goes according to plan, I'll get top 10. And so I can get both the skin and the adornment. Okay, how do you get 30 million power if you're training troops? Well, as we know, a tier 5 troop is worth 10 points each. So 30 million power means 3 million fresh T5. So as a threshold matter, assuming you're aiming for 30 million, you got to be planning to train 3 million fresh T5 troops. Okay, that's a lot of troops. And the first question you might have is, okay, assuming I want to train that much, how many training speeds do I need and how many resources do I need? Okay, you young whippersnappers don't know how good you've got it. They've introduced a lot of tools in the game to make these pushes a lot more user-friendly. And one of the things they've introduced is they let us figure out how many resources we have and how many training speed-ups we have. So go into your inventory, and to find out resources, you click on the second item here, and you can go click this button, Resource Statistics, and you can see the total amount of resources I have right now, okay? Kind of the same thing for speed-ups. Go to this tab and click on Speed Up Item Statistics. And obviously for training purposes, I only care about the first 2 here. So I'm a little over 1,800 days right now in terms of speed-ups that I can use for training. Okay, I saw the amount of resources I had. I saw the amount of training speed-ups I had. What does that translate into in terms of the number of troops I can train? Well, thankfully, there's a lot of tools that the internet has that makes it a lot easier. And the best one that I found is the Call of Dragons database. I'll put a link to this website in the description below. Okay, so I know I had a bit more than 1,800. Just for swag purposes, I'll put 1,800 in here. I don't really care about the precision at this point. Things you want to check, make sure you have the training speed right. Now, 75% is the maximum training speed. That's going to go up a little bit when we get the new legendary city skin from Row. No one has that yet, and I certainly don't have it, so 75 is the speed I'll have. Now, this calculator works with both Strongest Lord and Greatest Heights. The only difference is the points you get, but I'll set it to Great Heights just so there's no confusion. With this amount of training speed-ups, I could train 2.26 million troops, which of course would be worth 22.6 million points. Not quite enough the 30 million I'm looking to push. Now, a couple other great things about the training calculator. It's also going to tell you the amount of resources you need for that number of troops. Of course, the amount of resources you're going to need depends on the type of troop you're training. So you can adjust these troops as these slider bars as necessary. So let's just say I'm doing half infantry, half cav. These are the resources I would need for that troop composition. One of the pieces of advice I give to try and, push well in these events is to not try and train straight tier 5, but rather to train T4 up ahead of time and then upgrade them into T5 when you're into the event. Of course, you can only do that with however many T4 you have, but this calculator will also let you know how many T4 you can upgrade into T5 and what the resource cost of that is. So let's say, just for example, I want to use 100 days of speed ups upgrading T4. I can see with 100 days of speed ups, I can upgrade about 380,000 units, and that's going to give me a little bit more than 2 million points upgrading those T4 into T5. And the same thing over here, I'll just click on this button, and once again, I'll put it about half and half. And these are the resources I would need to upgrade. The best way to push during these events is to upgrade T4 into T5. But here's the thing, you should have been building T4 already. If you haven't built T4, you're kind of too late. The best thing to do at this point is to start the big train, right? So all of my factories you can see right now, they have the 20,000 reserve legions. And so each of them are training, 21,600 troops. It's going to take them a little bit more than 2 weeks. I didn't time it perfectly, but this is pretty good timing. And so by using these very large reserve legions, I basically have these very long trains going. And the point is, like, all this time that I'm waiting for Great Heights to begin, I'm essentially training for Great Heights, because on the first day I'll cash these all in. That's better than 100,000 troops right there. The only place to get those 2,000 reserve legions is the VIP store. Let's say you can't afford those 20,000 reserve legions. What should you do? Well, use the biggest reserve legions you have, right? And the next biggest is 10,000. If you use a smaller reserve legion right now, you're going to get done with that training before Great Heights begins. You don't want that. You want to use that reserve legion essentially to time it so it comes due right when the event begins. And so what should you do in the meantime? Train as much T4 you can in the meantime, and then when you get in range, if you will, use that 10,000 reserve legion or whatever to start the long trains for yourself. Right now in the Goblin Market, anytime I see a speed up, I'm going to buy it, for the next 2 weeks. And so I'll get a couple weeks in the VIP store to buy speed ups, and I'll probably buy all of them from here for the next 2 weeks. While you can buy straight speed ups from the store, you really don't want to be doing that because these aren't at a discount and they're extremely expensive. The VIP store or the Goblin Shop is a much better option. But let's say you're short resources. How do you make up the resource gap? Well, obviously send your gatherers out and gather as much as you can. Obviously, KVK situation permitting. The other thing you need to think about very quickly, if you have a farm account or an alt account, start sending resources to the account that you want to push on. Obviously, you can't send mana that way, but you can get everything else that way. And the important thing to realize is you have a weekly limit to the amount of resources you can receive. And we have essentially 2 weeks now. So max out that weekly limit this week so you can use it again next week. Okay, now the last thing for resources, we do have this supply station. Like, you can get whatever resource you want, like typically mana. This is not a great value. A much better value is the bazaar, where you can use pet coins to get resources. And you can get any resource that way. So typically the one I need is mana. And this is much more efficient than going through supply station. But like the resource transfer from your farms, there is a weekly limit on this. So for example, if you need mana, make sure you max it out this week so then you can use it again next week. Okay, I'm going to go over a few last things, and I think these are all pretty obvious, but just for the sake of clarity so we all know what to do. It's training day. What do you do? Obviously find a maximum level 5 training stone. If you have to go to your home kingdom and kill every behemoth that can drop it, that's what you do, okay? The second thing, your kingdom should be dropping training buffs during this event. Do your training during the training buffs, and then get the training title. Maximize your training speed as much as you can. Okay, no kidding, right? Okay, the next thing is we have a lot of very nice tools now. Now, if you did Greatest Heights earlier on, like the first one I ever did was the Cav skin, I basically had to do everything manually. They put a lot of quality of life tools in the game now. I love them. For example, you see these axemen here. I'm just training them. I'll just give you some examples here. I can hit speed up, multi-speed up. You'll love this. It prioritizes training speed ups over generics, and it prioritizes longer speed ups over shorter ones. That's exactly what you want. You hit multi-speed up the first time, make sure you disable the tooltip, confirm, you're good to go, it's trained. You don't have to worry about getting the exact right speed ups every time. The next time is when you go to train the troops, you can just click fast training, and it'll automatically use the speed ups and the training speed up items in the same way. And so I can just hit this, I can just spam this button, I can train a lot of troops very quickly. I love this, I wish they had this earlier, okay? Now, one last thing, let's say it's day 3 or whatever of the greatest heights and you're pushing and you're in 11th place, 12th place. There are very few things in this game that suck more than finishing 11th place or 12th place in the greatest heights, right? I'd honestly rather be zeroed than finish in 11th place. Okay, and you're pushing and someone else is pushing against you. It's the last like few minutes. What do? You're out of training speed ups. You've bought every pack you can buy. You've got a lot of gems, but there's no way to efficiently trade those gems in for speed ups anymore. What's the answer? Okay, in that extreme scenario, here's what you do. And the thing to understand in that scenario, the game will sell you speed ups as much as you want, but like at no clearance rates, you're paying full freight for them. The higher level speed ups cost less gems per minute than the lower level speed ups do. And just as an easy example, let's compare 3 days, which costs 4,400 gems, versus 1 day, which costs 1,500 gems. Right? So if I want to get 3 days of speed ups and I buy 3 1-day speed ups, it costs me 4,500, and a 3-day but costs me 4,400. Okay, it's a little saving, not much, but okay, whatever. Never do math in public, but this will become important if you're in that emergency situation. So let's say you're spamming troops at the end there. You want to make sure you're essentially nailing this on the nose in terms of the speed ups you're buying, right? And just as, for example here, let's say I need to buy gems to get 1 day, 12 hours, 46 minutes, and some seconds, right? So really 1 day, 12 hours, and 47 minutes. If I just tell the game to do that by instant, what it needs to do is it'll buy a 1 day speed up, an 8 hour speed up, a 3 hour speed up, a 1 hour speed up, and then however many 3 15 minutes and then a couple 1 minute speed ups. That's actually pretty inefficient. And so you want to adjust the number of troops you train, right? So it looks like 1044. Yeah, that's exactly 1 day. And so that'll cost me exactly 1 day speed up. And if I go even 1 more troop, let's say I do 1045, then it costs me 6 more gems for that 1 troop. Totally inefficient because now I got to buy some minute speed ups on top of that. Right, hey, those are my tips for pushing the Greatest Heights event. I am going to push this. The mage skin is the one I'm missing, which is a little ironic because I'm sort of a mage. I'm a Cav mage main. I have the Cav skin. I've had it forever, but I've just never been able to get the mage skin. So I'm pushing this, and I will get 30 million points. Hopefully I finish in top 10, but if I don't, at least I'll get the skin. I actually do like the changes they've recently made to this event. The ability to carry seals over from one event to the other, that does make it more mid-spender friendly. Getting these legendary city skins is valuable for the account, right, because of the reliquary system. Every legendary skin, whether you're using it or not, is going to give you plus 2% attack. I mean, you have to go activating the reliquary, but why wouldn't you? You have incentive to get up to 5 of these because the epic skins only give you 0.5%, so it is an advantage to keep getting these legendary skins up to 5. And then, the quality of life improvements for the training speed up, the multi-use, the instant train. It really makes the event, I'll say, somewhat less stressful. The Greatest Heights event, honestly, like I said, it's one of the more stressful times in the game if you are pushing. And, like I said, one of the worst fates you can have in this game is to finish like 11th or 12th in these events. So, don't fall asleep the last couple hours of the event, because you will get sniped. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. If you're pushing Great Heights, good luck. And until next time, stay classy, Belleron.